Okay, this video is to help you with page 27 in your Tanakh notes. You should have been given this out already. For now, the teacher has them on the desk. We already basically went over the storyline of what this psukim mentioned. What we're going to be doing now for a few days is focusing on some comments of Rashi and other commentaries to get a little bit of a deeper understanding of this story. So the first thing we're going to discuss is question number 6, which is a comment of Rashi to Perek Zayin, Pasuk Tetvav. The Dibur HaMatchil is in Ne Yotzei Hamayma, which means, behold, he's going to the river. And that's referring to Hashem speaking to Moshe, telling him, go speak to Paro, look, he's going out to the river, to the water. So the question that Rashi is going to discuss is, why does Hashem want Moshe to speak to Paro when he's going by the river? Rashi's answer is, because he's going lenekavav, he's going to use the river as a bathroom. Shaya'ose atzmo Eloha, he used to pretend to be a god. V'yomer she'eino tzarich lenekavav, and he used to claim that he didn't have to go to the bathroom like regular human beings. Umashkim, and he would wake up early. V'yotze lenilus, he would go out to the Nile River. V'yose sham tzrachav, and then he used the river as a bathroom. Okay, so that answers the question, why Hashem wants Moshe to speak to him when he's going to the river, because that shows Paro's weakness, that he's really pretending something that he's not. So that's the first makad, that Hashem wants him to warn him when he's by the river. Okay, the next comment that we're going to see is another comment of Rashi on Pasuk Yud Zayin, Dibur HaMatchil v'nefchu ledam, which means they will turn to blood. V'nefchu is a word that we had in Purim, v'nafochu, they will turn to blood. The question that Rashi is going to discuss is, why did Hashem target the river? Why was the first Makkah affecting the river, turning the water into blood? Why the river? So Rashi tells us the following. Lefi shein geshamim yordim b'Mitzrayim, because first listen to the comment of Rashi and then we'll write a little summary. So Rashi says, because in Egypt there is a lack of rain. It rarely rains in Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim is basically a desert area. Venilus olu mashke et haaretz. And what happens is, when the Nile overflows its banks, so that water provides water for the banks of the river. So the area to the left and to the right of the river is fertile. It grows crops because it's fertilized, it's watered by the river. Umitzrayim of dim lenilus, and therefore the Egyptians regarded the river as almost like they would worship the river, because to them the river was like a source of life. Lefichach ilkait yiratam. That's why God decided first to strike the river, because when God punishes a nation, first it attacks their deities, their gods, what they worship, to show them that you got it wrong. You're worshiping something that is not a god. So the summary for the answer is, because there's a lack of rain in Mitzrayim, and therefore the Egyptians worship the river. And when God punishes a nation, first he punishes the deity that they worship. Okay, next in Pasuk Yutet, we see that Hashem tells Moshe, speak to Aaron. That's the translation of Dibur HaMatchil, Emor el Aaron. Speak to Aaron. And what the rest of the Pasuk tells us is that Aaron is the one who's supposed to raise his hand and strike the river with his staff, and that's going to turn the water into blood. The question Rashi is going to answer is, why did Moshe involve Aaron in doing the first Makkah? Why didn't Moshe do it himself? And we know now the answer. Rashi explains, Lefi she'egina yaor al Moshe keshenishlah letocho. Because we know that the river protected Moshe when he was in the basket. Lefichach lo lakal yado. Therefore Moshe would not be the one to strike it. Velo betzfardim. And the same thing with the frogs. And that's why it was going to be Aaron, the one who bring about the plague of frogs for the same reason. Okay, question number 9 is looking at Pasuk Chavchet. Pasuk is talking about how when Aaron strikes the water, he will bring up the frogs, and the frogs will come bebeitecha, in your house, that is Paro's house, and also bebeit avadecha, in the houses of your servants. Okay, translation of the Buramatl, in your house and in the house of your servants. The question that Rashi is going to answer is, why in that order? Why Paro first and then the servants? And you can probably guess the answer. Rashi answers, Hu itchil beitzat tchila, because the idea to oppress the Jews came from Paro. V'amar el amo, and then he spoke to his people. So therefore, he had to be punished first, and then the people who helped him. Okay, number 10. Now we're looking at Perek Chet, Pasuk Yud Bet. The Pasuk tells us that Moshe told Aaron to strike the dirt, and that will bring about the Makkah of Kinim, of lice. So the translation of the Dibur HaMatkil is Ve'ach, and strike the dirt of the ground, the dust of the ground. So the question this phone is going to answer is, there's no warning. Why is there no warning here? In the previous two Makot, Dam Sfardea, the Psukim clearly said that Hashem tells Moshe to go speak to Paro. But here, it doesn't tell him to go speak to him. Just strike the ground and Kinim will come without a warning. So first, I'm going to give you the full explanation, and then we'll write a bit of a summary. And what this form is going to tell us is something that we discussed at length previously about the Tzach, Hadash, Be'achav. And he says that the reason why there's no warning here is because we know that there is a pattern. And he tells us something very important here. You know that the first 9 Makot are in one group. The first 9 plagues are in one group. They were there to be signs and wonders. The last plague was for something else. That was a punishment for the Egyptians. So let's focus on the first 9. We know that the first 9 are grouped as the Tzach, Adash, Be'ach, without the Bet at the end, which is Bechorot. The last Makkah is not for a sign or a wonder. It was a punishment like we mentioned before. Now when we look at these 3 groups, the Tzach, and Adash, and Be'ach, so we know that the first 3 were something to do with the ground, the water, the ground, the earth. Adash was affecting the living creatures, and Be'ach was something to do with the atmosphere, with the wind, with the air. So the pattern is that in the first 2 of each of these groups, there was a warning. But the third one, as we learned before, there was no warning. Because the third one was only made as a sign, as a wonder, without a warning. Meaning it was like a punishment for not listening to the warning previously. So the short of the answer is because the third one in each of the 3 groups is a punishment for not having listened to the warning given to him twice before. So Kinim is the third one of the first group, so therefore there is no warning. Okay, question 11. This is on Perek Tet Pasuk Chav Zayin, and what it's saying is that this is the Makkah of Barad, of hail, and when the hail came, so it says in Pasuk Chav Zayin that Paro sent and called Moshe and Aaron, and he said to them, look, I realize I sinned this time. Hashem Atzadik, Hashem is the righteous one, V'ani v'ami reshaim, and I and my people are the wicked ones. So the translation of the Dibur HaMatchil is Hashem is the tzaddik, Hashem is the righteous one. You can write the word tzaddik in Hebrew, it's simpler. So the question that Chizkiyahu is going to discuss is what caused Paro to say that Hashem is a tzaddik? This is not the first or the second or the third Makkah, this is already Barat. So what motivated Paro to say, oh, Hashem is a tzaddik? What happened? So Chizkiyahu says something very interesting. He says, because Paro saw something very important. He says, look, usually when somebody comes, let's say a king, an enemy comes and attacks, he is interested in destroying the country, killing the king, the people. He doesn't give any warnings. He just wants to destroy as much as possible quickly and conquer everything. But here instead, what Hashem did is, by the Makkah of Barad, before the hail came, Moshe told them, the Barad is coming, and why don't you be smart and bring your animals into their barns and indoors so that they won't be affected by the hail. And they did that. They brought in some of their animals. People who took Moshe seriously already, they listened to him. They brought in the animals indoors. And that's how they saved their animals. So when Paro saw that they were being warned, and not only warned, but they were giving advice of how to manage, that caused them to say, you know what, Hashem is a tzaddik. Hashem is not this evil enemy who is interested in just destroying. But he gives us a warning, and he gives us the ability to manage the situation so that it won't be so devastating. So his answer is, because Hashem, through Moshe, told Paro, bring in the animals so they won't be destroyed with the hail. So that made Paro realize that Hashem is a righteous being. Okay, question 12. That's Perek Yud Aleph, Pasuk Hey. So the Pasuk is talking about how Hashem tells Moshe that Hashem himself is going to come out Bechatzot Alayla at midnight. And what's going to happen is the firstborn of the Mitzrim is going to die. And that includes the Bechor, every Bechor, from the firstborn of Paro, even the Bechor of the Shivcha, of the servants, right? All the firstborns. So the translation of the Dibur HaMatchil is the Bechor of Paro until the Bechor of the Shivcha, of the servant. Meaning, all the firstborns are going to die. Not only from the king, but every Bechor down among the population. So the question the Rashi is going to answer is why? We understand the firstborn of Paro being killed, because Paro killed the boys, the Jewish kids. But what about the Shivcha? What about the maidservant? What did they do? So Rashi says something very important. Rashi points out the reason is because even the servants of Paro, they also oppressed the Jews, and they also rejoiced when the Jews were suffering. So they also deserve some measure of punishment because they were also involved in carrying out the oppression against the Jews, and also they rejoice seeing the Jewish people oppressed.